In this video, we're going to look at an image rollover application. We've seen these 4 images before. We have these fishing images, but when I hover over the image with my mouse, the image changes. So it switches from these guys releasing a fish to the image of a deer and that one. And when I go off of it, it switches back. And when I hover over this one, we switch to the photo of the bison. And when my mouse leaves it, it goes back to normal. So let's see how this works. I'll get my mouse pointer turned back on here. All right, so we have our main page. We have H1, it says fishing images, and we have our instructions in a paragraph. Move your mouse over an image to change it. And then we have an unordered list with an ID of image rollovers. And inside the list items, we have an image set up, and its source is release.jpg. And for the second one, its source is hero.jpg. But they've done something pretty clever here. They've given the first one an ID of images/deer.jpg. So they set its ID to actually the path to another image. And the same thing for the second one. They've set its ID to images/bison.jpg. So this is the actual source for the images, and these are the IDs that they put on them. And they're using that basically to store the name of the alternate image. Okay, so we've got our jQuery loaded here. We got rollover.js where the magic happens. Let's take a look at that. So the first thing we do is we get the image, each image, all the images, which is 2 of them, out of the image rollover section. Okay, and for each of those images, we are going to take the image source and call it the old URL. So that's the actual source that it's using. And then we're going to take the ID for the image and call it the new URL. Okay, so we're using that IT attribute to store another URL we're calling new URL. Okay, so we're preloading the rollover images here. Old URL, new URL for each of those images. Remember, so this is a for each, so it acts kind of like a loop, and it does for all the images. It creates a new image, and it sets a source for the new URL for those 2 images in memory, so we don't have to wait for them to load. And then we have a handler for each image tag. If you hover over it, we have 2 things separated by a comma. So we have one function if you hover over it. When your mouse enters it, it's going to set the image source to that new URL, which we actually took out of the ID tag, out of the ID attribute. Okay, comma, and then we have another function here that sets the image source when we hover out, sets it back to the old URL. So these 2 things, when I go in, it changes the image source to that alternate image, and when my mouse leaves, it sets it back to the old URL. So that's pretty clever, using the image's ID as an alternate place to store the alternate file name that we needed. Works very well. Nice, short, easy to do using jQuery.